Hey, what's up guys, and first of all I post my first video over in Anime King 3. I'll be leaving a link in top of the description for you guys to enjoy. What if Naruto was betrayed by Hagoromo? But right now I'm going to be giving you part 8 of what if Naruto was given a gift that will change everything on this channel guys. I do hope that you guys enjoy. Remember to get this one to 200 likes as usual, share this to all of your friends in your social media platform. And I also posted a brand new episode of What If Naruto Was Trained by the Greats at a young age. So go ahead and check out that and enjoy as well guys. And remember, if you're new and this is the first time you hear my voice and you enjoy the videos on both Anime King and Anime King 2, go ahead and click that red subscribe button and become a part of the Anime King family. And thank you for all of your help and your support. Remember to comment down below and tell me if you're new. I'll be replying talking about to all of you. So yeah, without further ado, what do you say we begin this new episode? Start the intro. So the last time we left off, as Naruto made his way through the forest of death, as a team attacked him, he could sense that the Nara team was behind him as they were watching, as Naruto brutally massacred them like they were nothing. As Shikamaru came out, as Naruto didn't have to do that, as he was a monster, but Naruto simply shrugged it off, as he didn't really care one bit. As he made his way through the forest and headed towards the tower, some of the Jonins there looked at him when they saw what he did, but he simply paid him no mind as he went to Uncle, as he gave her 3 scrolls, as he was leaving as he left. Naruto finished a training exercise early in the morning as he headed to one of the hot springs to relax, when Jiraiya found him. As Naruto was covered by chains already, as Jiraiya tried to ruffle his hair, but the chains attacked him. As Naruto knew about his father, as he didn't seem to really care about it, as Jiraiya egged him on for a spar, as the both of them clashed against each other, as Naruto knew not to hold back, especially when going up against the Sannin at Jiraiya show how strong he is. Naruto used a man one weakness, him being a pervert, and transformed into a girl, as he was able to use it to smash away Jiraiya, as Jiraiya told him that he would train him, but Naruto told him no thanks and headed off. Jiraiya felt a bit depressed as he went to go and talk to Sarutobi, but he would not give up. After all, the kid does not know any better, so he will make sure that he turned the kid into his apprentice, and with that he headed off once again to make sure he get Naruto to become his apprentice. The time went by as Naruto kept on, evading Jiraiya and ignoring him, as it was finally time for the finals of Chunin exams, as Naruto and his previous envoy squads was on the roof, as the Hokage brought them back to watch over the village as well. As they were watching and talking, explosions went off as the invasion began. The battling started as Naruto made his way and started to skewer some sand and some ninjas, as he started slaughtering his path. He then saw the beast manifest as he went after the Shikaku, as he started to clash with a giant thing. The thing was rambling about like a child, as Naruto kept on ripping it apart, until he saw Gaara on top of the head, as he was able to beat Gaara right through it, breaking apart the monster. With that, the thing landed and Gaara had bent in a rather unusual way. As Naruto was disappointed, the kid that he saw with such rage, such anger and power was nothing more than a scared child now, as Naruto was just gonna kill him out of pity. But Kakashi came here and stopped him, as he told him that Konoha does not kill their prisoners, as Naruto could see that there were some others, some civilian there. As he got the message clear, Konoha do not kill their prisoners in front of prying eyes. But that didn't mean, as Naruto shot forward and went towards the walls, as he saw the Sonin Sand ninjas fleeing, as he was going to murder every last one of them, as he dashed after them. So yeah guys, that's basically that's what left off. You guys can switch across the place and check it for yourself. So, what do you say begin this new episode? Naruto must have dig deeper into the Kyuubi chakra than normal before. By the time he was able to realize what was going on, he was far beyond the walls. Yes, far away from the walls, his chains moving about, as the thing hold on to the arms of a sound Chunin and pulled him until his arms were ripped off. It then sliced off his head. With this much of the fox start running through him, Naruto could smell them. Fear smelled like cold sweat, adrenaline, and urine. As he moved forward again and started slaughtering as many as he could. But suddenly he jumped back. Strange shurikens slammed into the ground where he had been standing, as they were glittering. His chains lashed out and slapped away another barrage. I'm surprised those flimsy little ropes can actually stand up to my hexagonal shuriken, a woman said as Naruto turned. She looked to be about Nezumi's age, as her arms were crossed. She was standing in front of him to not let him pass. I'll show you how flimsy these really are, said Naruto. His voice sounded like a growl, as it was mixed with the Kyuubis. The burning chakra dancing through his body was excited. She was strong. She scoffed as she flicked back her purple hair. Well, I'm sorry to interrupt your fun, but I cannot let you kill any more of Orochimaru-sama underlings. Why do you care? Naruto asked, as his body was itching to begin. But there was an unspoken protocol for them to weigh each other up. Right now, all he could tell was that this woman did not want to be here. I don't. These weak idiots are just meat fodder. But Orochimaru-sama has purpose for them. Something better than them just getting slaughtered in their retreat. Fine. They were no fun anyway. Too weak for my taste. As Naruto shot forward, he had been pouring chains into the ground as he used it to pull him forward. It was like he body flicker right in front of her. But she produced those glinting shurikens between her arms, and a blade formed on her right forearm as well. As Naruto used his chains, they yanked him back. Two more chains erupted from his palms and lashed out like whips. But Guren blocked it with a blade in her arm. But a smaller chain erupted from the larger one and slashed across Guren. But when Naruto saw, her body was glistening, like she was being protected by some sort of crystal. And Guren was shocked that those things managed to scratch her crystal armor as she looked down. And Naruto was furious that he only scratched it. And then it began. Naruto dived to the side as he avoided a lethal hail of shurikens, whatever they were made of. Some chakra-enhanced crystal. They were lighter and stronger than regular stuff. Finding out that his chains could damage her armor, Guren was keeping him at a distance. And every time he sent his chains after her, she created blades from her arms, and they were good protection. As the fight was tough and Naruto was loving every single moment of it. It was bringing out the tactical side of him that Saru had hammered in. But he never really had much need to draw on it, because he always used brute force and his massive, overwhelming amount of chains. But it wasn't even the real Naruto fighting down there. The real Naruto was watching from a tree as his clone testing Guren defenses. As Naruto watched her as the clone sent two chains after her. If she go to the left, there would be a nasty, explosive surprise there for her if she turned to the right. He smashed, he came towards the right. Chains went down Naruto's arm. As he shot forward, the moment Guren turned towards the tree front, Naruto was in front of her. As he smashed his hand into her gut with such force, the chain started to grind into her. But then she smiled at him. Nice try. Instead of her armor shattering, her entire body did dissolve into little pink dust. Naruto spun as he brought up a large chain of shield. The chain didn't stop them as they were larger, shuriken barrage, and some of them were sliced off as he felt the slap of chakra from his chains being cut off. But the chains did slow them enough, so they only just sliced into him a bit, and they didn't cut him in half. As he spun around, already ignoring the pain, his chains grew back quickly enough. But he was feeling it. Between this and the Ichibai, he had burned through some of his reserves. This is what Konoha sends out after her scoring mock from a nearby branch, as Naruto was betting that it was another clone. A one-trick pony with two beer cells barely aped her up together, when a worthy opponent shows up. Keep talking, he said. You will appreciate the extra few seconds between that last breath. Guren sneered, then they were back at it. The game and cat and mouse didn't last too long, as Guren was now eager to close the distance between them. Fighting at a distance, she could not do much damage to put him down. With the Kyuubi chakra flowing through him, his wounds healed rather faster. An endurance fight between him and her, she would lose. But she had a good amount, as Naruto never thought a normal shinobi could have so much chakra and use so much abilities and still not look that waver and bite. He made no mistake. Crystal release, he learned that it was called after she called her ninjutsu numerous times now, was a dangerous technique. The ability to crystallize anything she touched, chakra or flesh, was a rather dangerous technique. As he realized she could also crystallize his chains, it made him brittle, and the effect of her crystal started to travel down his chains straight to his body. He had to break them off himself, as he would rather lose the chakra than the arm though. Crystal Wheel, as he wondered with her calling out her techniques, was the reason why she can use them so effortlessly. As Naruto dodged it, as she was fond of this one, surrounding herself with blades of crystal that could carry her around. It increased her mobility, and the wheel itself was sharp that could slice a tree in half without even slowing down. as Naruto ripped his chains out of the ground where he had been flooding them with Earth Chakra. He wasn't as good with Earth as he was with Wind, so he took time that he did not have. He had been distracting her with clones, but making shy clones that can use the chains as well was draining his chakra. It was worth it though. The chains came up as they were encased in an earth layer that might have been metal, how dense they was. As he snapped it, it smashed through several trees as it slammed right in the edge of Guren's wheel. As her technique was shattered completely, the other chain came around her to smash her in the center. She quickly brought up a blade on her wrist, but instead of cutting through the earth chain, it just cut right into it, not straight through it. But another chain burst right through the earth and wrapped around Guren's neck. It clashed violently with the crystal that was around her body, as it was not breaking it and it was not making her gasp for air, but it made him lift her up. As she realized that it was not budging and her armor was keeping up, so she was not lack of breath. As she saw Naruto running towards her, still a one-trick pony, she threw as many shurikens as she can throw at that moment. Most of them missing Naruto and some of them embedded right into his chest. He didn't care though, as he blocked out the pain and focused on the chains on his arm. 3 of them wrapped around his fingers, shrouded in a faint white haze. He had never named his own techniques, finding it as a useless exercise, when he could use his chains as natural as if he was breathing. As Naruto appeared in front of her and drive his hand forward, the wind-enhanced drill with his chains impacted into her stomach as he started to grind. As a small crack appeared, before a spiderweb crack spread out, the very tip of the drill drew blood. Guren cried out as it started to tear into her stomach. She called on her chakra, something wild and unpredictable without hand signs. It was a lump of crystal that came on her chest and exploded outwards, blowing the both of them away from each other. As Naruto felt something crunch in his arm as he hit in a tree, he tried to pick himself up but his legs gave out from underneath him. He had taken so many cuts and he was bleeding from so many places, and the Kyuubi chakra was struggling to heal him. As his head felt loose from blood loss, he knew that he couldn't draw upon more of the Kyuubi chakra to keep going. After all, he was near to the village, and if he lost himself, as he was too weak to contain at the moment, and as bad as he was, he would never submit to that beast's will. If he was going to kill something, he would be the one doing it. As he saw Guren staggering towards him, not looking so good herself, she was clutching her stomach. But she started to crystallize the wound. Not a real fix, but she would not bleed out like him. "I changed my mind," she said, as she spit out some blood. "You're actually a tough bastard. Orochimaru-sama was right to warn me about you." As she was looking at him with respect, something that he did not see often. But nothing will stand in my master's way. I'll make sure of that. Something snapped inside Naruto's head. Something that Haku said to him. That she was strong because she had someone to protect. His own spiteful words to Gaara now seemed like a joke. Had Naruto ever really felt defeat? His sensei pushed him hard enough to feel real. But it was just sparring. Simulation, he was safe. As he grinned, as he let his head fall back. "Good fight," he said, as Guren watched him submitting. As his entire mouth was red with blood. His teeth were red and soaked with blood. But he was still something in her way that she needed to put down. But him just giving up like that. As she remembered that she was badly wounded herself. As she then felt it, she collapsed to her knees. A weight then settled down on her. What was this? Was the Kyuubi escaping? Orochimaru thought it was unlikely given the 8 tetragram seals. But that feeling, that toxic feeling in the air, as a single chain came from Naruto's chest, it was different from the other ones that he was using. His wounds started to hiss and steam as they vanished in front of her eyes. The chain smashed into his chest as his body limped. It smashed into his chest again. His body jerked. It smashed another time. The 5th time, Naruto's eyes snapped open as he took in a long breath. He spun over as he started to cough up a glove of blood. The haze around his body had turned into a layer that was shaping into a fox with 2 pointed ears. Humans. The Kyuubi spat as he cleared his throat of blood. So damn fragile. He took a step forwards as it was awkward, as he was getting used to moving in his body. And poor design. How do you creatures get anything done? As he flexed one of his arms. Chains came from his tailbone, 9 of them, as they served to balance him. Still, I will make do with what I have. His head then rose, as Guren saw those eyes. Red, slitted eyes. Even Orochimaru's eyes did not look like that. So animalistic, so feral. Hello. That was all the warning she got. This speed was beyond anything she had seen before, as he smashed into her. Two of his tails wrapped around her ankle and slammed her into a nearby tree. Her head smashed into it full force. She plopped down, blood now leaking back from her stomach as the wound had reopened. I can get used to this. Crushing you insects underneath my palm. Feels so dull, but this feel rather personal. As he flexed his hands as nails turned into claws, as this was the Kyuubi toying with his prey. She tried to stand, but one of the chain tails smashed into her side. She had reapplied her crystal armor, but it shattered rather quickly from that one blow, as she was sent sailing to the side, but she was grabbed as another chain wrapped around her ankle and yanked her, as her face was pulled straight into the earth, sliced up her face a lot, as she was brought up by her ankle, just there, unmoving. She tried to throw some shuriken at him, but he simply caught them out of the air, as he snapped them with his fingers and tossed them aside. Humans are more interesting than I give them credit for. So many feelings and desires. It's just a big cocktail of hormones and filthy in here. As he touched her right in the chest. He was so close she could feel his breath on her cheek. So many new appetites. A single claw trailed her cheek. Guren hissed as it sliced her face. Awkward and feeble, but I think I can find some enjoyment within this. She was trying to crystallize the chains around her ankle, but the Kyuubi chakra was messing with her control. It was useless, as the pink crystal was slowly coming up across the chain, a rather slow crawl, as she tried to spit out her razor-sharp senbons, but they simply bounced off his chakra as he laughed. Adorable. This would be. But he didn't stop as he turned his head, as one of his chains wrapped around his neck and he yanked him back, as others wrapped around his limbs and held him down. Get back in your cage, he said to himself, as his eyes flickered to blue, then red. Just let me have my fun, he roared back to himself. The chains released Guren as she dropped to the ground. I said, get in your cage. The chains snapped back their usual appearance as Naruto. Body returned back to normal as he was panting on the ground. A moment later he staggered to his feet, the toxic feeling to the ear gone. But the whisker marks looked more jagged. He took one look at Guren before he turned and started to walk off. What are you doing? Aren't you gonna finish me off? She said. She knew it was a stupid thing to say. She was truly helpless right now. She couldn't even create a single shuriken. She could use her pressure points of harm and death, but that would kill her in the state that she was in. Kill you? Why would I do that? You know, seeing that you were trying to kill me, that was the best fight I ever had. As he walked back over and Guren feared that he might have changed his mind. She knew it was right to be afraid. She did not deserve it. She failed her master. A dull, useless weapon that couldn't even cut. She deserved to die. I want you to grow stronger, to get better than this, so I can fight you again. As he glared at his stomach, without the interruption, as he smirked, as he started to leave again. This is your win. Get better quick. Next time, it won't be. Then he was gone, simply walking away, leaving Guren with those words as she made her way back to Hidden Sound. Time skip. Over the next few days, Naruto was energized and frustrated. He took missions after mission to work off the high that the fight with Guren had given him. After the invasion, the village was flooded with requests from within and without. There was plenty of damage to fix as well. Hundreds of clients also saw the way Konoha protected them in the invasion, pushing back the joint assault from two villages and keeping the innocents protected. So in the next few days, the requests came flooding in, as Naruto completed all of his missions, but he also felt distracted, details of the fight playing over and over in his mind. Things he could have done better, things he would have to fix up. It was like he was 6 again, imagining what shinobi are like. The one thing came to his mind though, was the way his chains had scraped against Guren armor, unable to penetrate until he weakened her. His teammates noticed his distraction as well as they paused in one of his training sessions, as Saru thought that Naruto might be overworked. But it was Kuma who made a valid tactic point when he brought it up. As Naruto hesitated, he was not one to always talk about his emotions. But this was a theme from Anvu days. It was the way my chains were stopped. Ever since I was little, there was nothing I could not cut through when I focused. With her, I just couldn't. And Naruto knew that it was his problem. While the Kyuubi had control, he could slice through them easily. It made me second guess myself whether the chains I'm so reliant on are good enough. Well, says Saru, I will be the first to tell you to never rely on one technique alone. That was why we trained your body, your taijutsu, and your kinjutsu, for you to train and think outside of the box. No technique is untouchable, but even the simplest techniques, with proper training and proper focus, can be quite deadly. There was a Uchiha not too long ago who refined the body flicker technique to a degree. When he was in combat, he looked like he was teleporting. Your father proved how deadly a technique like that is. Naruto hated reminders of his father, as it made him remember things that he saw through his mother's eyes, things that a son should never see. Well, says Saru, I know how strong and those chains, how lethal they can be, and that was from viewing both of you. So when it comes down to it, I think it's a matter of your will. Lack of focus, said Nizumi. Precisely, Saru said. Those chains are a manifestation of your chakra. And, without going too much into the physical debate, your chakra is a spiritual imprint of who you are. So, you're saying my chains are blunt because my mind is, Naruto said. Something like that. As I know of Kushina, she was well guarded. She inscribed her chains with Fuinjutsu barriers to make them impenetrable. But as for where she protects and safe, you. Naruto understood. Where his mother protects and safe, he destroyed and he attacked. I'm losing my edge, so my chains are. As he didn't know what to do about that. Did he even want to fix it? He didn't like going back. Just thinking about going back to something, it felt like he was repeating because he was failing. He felt a hand on his shoulder. Will and focus, said Nezumi, as she removed her mask and gave him a look, eyebrows scrunching up in a way that others might call cute. You are you. The same words that she told when he was facing off against that beast. Despite the few words, he still found meaning in them. She was always so direct, cutting right to the matter of heart. It didn't matter the reason for his will was, just that it was focused, clear, and sharp. I think we'll call it here. Seem as good as place as any, says Saru, as he walked over to where Teiko was entertaining Kuma with coin tricks, as Nezumi placed on her mask. As she followed her captain, Naruto was still thinking about it when he made it home, where Haku was waiting for him on the couch. I haven't seen you much lately, Naruto said. He wasn't one for small talk, but silences in the apartment had become rather awkward. Yes, it was better if they talked, ever since that night when she slept with him on the couch. Yes, when they stayed silent for a while, it was rather awkward. You haven't been here much to see, was a neutral response that came from her. Well, she was right about that. Between missions, he was sleeping or traveling to Hokage's tower for another mission. This was probably the first time he spoke to her since the invasion. I didn't see you fighting. You wouldn't have anyway, she said, as she was reading a book. I was in the shelters. Hiding, said Naruto. Haku struck him as many things, and someone who ran from fighting was not one of them. Helping people, your village, is understaffed when it comes to medical nature, and prioritizing the shinobis. I was lending a hand to civilians who were hurt in the attack. Just minor things, kunais, and minor jutsus. After all, I am no Senju Tsunade. Shame. We could probably use one of her right now, said Naruto. Haku head lowered at that as she knew what he was talking about. The Hokage had been seriously injured as he took one of Orochimaru's poisonous swords through the lung. He was in an induced coma in the hospital in critical condition. It might as well been a slow death. There was no medics that could properly treat the wound. And right now it was about 50-50 if he recovered. It's like you read my mind, kid. Haku nearly fell off the couch as Jiraiya made his presence known as he was sitting on the windowsill, writing his book. Naruto was less surprised. Well, he hadn't sensed the man. But you could hardly find a ninja who would sense a man if he didn't want to be sensed. But he has grown used to Jiraiya disappearing, that it didn't faze him anymore. I never gave you permission to enter my home, Jiraiya, he said. As he groaned, knowing that it was a lost battle. He was a Sanin, he did what he wanted. Never stopped me before, said Jiraiya, as he wiggled his eyebrows. Was there any reason why you broke into my apartment? Beyond being your irritating self. Kid, you haven't even seen irritating. I can be an absolute menace when I want to be. Women everywhere must weep, said Naruto. Tears of joy, kid. Tears of joy, said Jiraiya. Is that what they tell you to make you go away? Ouch. You know, you're very cold. Really, really cold. Throughout the entire thing, Haku was unaware what to say, as Jiraiya picked up on it. No need to be rooted. You haven't introduced me to your lady friend. And might I say I approve of the speedy work, my young protege. I'm not your protege, said Naruto. As he looked towards Haku. Haku, this is perfect. Perfect, this is Haku. A pleasure, said Jiraiya, as he crossed the distance between them. And ignore the kid. He's a liar. I am actually a super pervert, Haku finished for him. Naruto-sama has told me a bit about you. Well, it still wasn't enough to prepare for this. As Jiraiya sighed, he was going to build up to a drastic pose. But her saying it right now, it snapped the wind out of him. But he then heard the other thing that she said. Sama? So you're into the master-servant play, huh? A bit vanilla for me, but he gave me some ideas. As he pulled out his book and started to write down some things. Despite herself, Haku blushed. She already had enough time to Naruto bind her in his chains to think about what this man was talking about. As Jiraiya slipped the notebook away. Anyway kid, I got a mission for you, so pack up, we're leaving by morning. Tsunade told Jiraiya before the accident that Naruto does not do favors for people. He didn't have friends. But when it comes to a mission, yes, that was what he followed. I already have a mission scheduled tomorrow, said Naruto. Not now you don't, we're going to find Tsunade and drag her back to the village. Both Haku and Naruto blinked at that. To heal the Hokage, Haku said, it did seem like the right thing to do, but even on her run with Zabuza, she heard about the Sannin and her, well, less than right behavior when it comes to many people. After all, she was still a powerful person, being a Sannin. Dragging her back like that, wouldn't she retaliate? Perfectly. As the old man is hanging on by a thread at this point. If worse come to worse, Jiraiya says he was serious. Konoha will need a new Hokage, and I can't think of anyone better for the job. As he waited for them to say something, but none of them did. What? No, what about you, Jiraiya-sama? You would make a great Hokage. But neither of them said anything, as his shoulders slumped. Kids today are just downright mean. Well, no arguments with me on that front. I would be a terrible Hokage. All that aside though, be ready to go early kid. I don't like to be kept waiting. As he vanished back through the window. Are you going to go? He's my superior, technically. I have little say in the matter. Besides, how often do I get a chance to fight a Sannin, he said. I doubt there will be much fighting. Likely just finding her, and convincing her to return. We'll see, said Naruto, as he strode into the bedroom, shedding his clothes as he went. As he went inside, leaving the door open, his head then popped back around. Well, are you coming? He asked. She needed nothing else to follow him, as she fight back a blush. Maybe she did enjoy being ordered around. Naruto woke up rather early. Yes, he was used to it, being envoy and all. As, waking up early, seeing that Haku was now sleeping in the same bed as him, he took enjoyment out of, well, making her scared, as that was fun. As Haku woke up being dangling out the window, different days, different things he do to had fun. As Naruto made his way to the gate after that. But Jiraiya, the man said that he wanted to be early, but he arrived 2 hours late. You're late, said Naruto. Or, you're just too early, Jiraiya said as he yawned. I mean seriously, who willingly wait himself in these hours? People with paid mission to do, said Naruto. Jiraiya said nothing. I'm getting paid for this, right? Said Naruto. Jiraiya grinned. His grin was rather insincere. Of course, of course. What's more valuable than getting time to spend with your chule? Naruto turned as he started to walk back to the Hokage's tower. Wait kid, wait, I was just joking. You get paid. Geez, like you couldn't do one thing out of the kindness of your heart. What heart? Said Naruto. Fair point. Well, a old man life's at risk here. You are more concerned that you'll get stuck with the hat, said Naruto. Well, that go without saying. Can you honestly want someone like me as Hokage? Said Jiraiya. Naruto simply rolled his eyes. And if I became Hokage, and you keep on disrespecting me like this, I will give you nothing but D-rank missions, said Jiraiya. As Naruto gave Jiraiya a glare, who simply looked at him with a smug smile. Let's just get going, said Naruto, as he walked past Izumo and Kidetsu, who nodded to them. You know, it hurts that you're only coming along for that reason, said Jiraiya, as he catch up with Naruto. Seriously kid, if you're gonna play the mute card for the entire trip, what's the point of this entire trip? Good question, said Naruto as he turned around to go back to the village, but Jiraiya grabbed him by the shirt. Okay, I walked in that one, but if you despise my presence so much, why even agree to come? You mean, aside from my lack of choice, Naruto asked. Well, yeah, said Jiraiya. Fighting Tsunade of the Sannin should be fun. Jiraiya waited to see if Naruto was joking. Well, the kid wasn't one to joke. As Jiraiya burst out laughing, he had to hold his sides, as tears started to leak from his eyes, as he dropped to one knee and started to laugh. You want to take on so... As he burst out laughing once again. Oh, that's bold kid. Real, grade A stuff. I commend you on that. as he wiped a tear from his eye. But I didn't bring you along to bring you back as a pancake. No, we're gonna persuade Tsunade to come back, not force her. Because you're so persuasive, said Naruto. Jiraiya eyebrow wiggle. Got you to come, didn't I? Against my better judgment, said Naruto. As they went in the silence once again, but Jiraiya didn't seem to like the silence. Seriously, this might be a pretty long mission. Tsunade move around a lot and at random. We might be out here a long time, so we might as well come to some workable relationship, said Jiraiya. Oh, I have one, said Naruto. You shut up. Stop trying to replace my sensei, and we finish this as fast as possible. Jiraiya released a long breath, running his hand down his face. Okay, I'll admit the jabs at the people who taught you were in bad taste. As an apology, they'd sound a bit sincere, but Jiraiya just did not know when to shut up. After all, they were just working what they had, as he was forced down the chain. Whoa, he said. Sorry. No need for you to aim for the unmentionables, he said. You seem to have no trouble mentioning them when you have the opportunity, said Naruto. See, we're already bantering like little good buddies, said Jiraiya. I don't have friends, said Naruto. No kidding, said Jiraiya. Wait, weeks, said Naruto. Sure, I'm an intelligent guy, but you can only make do with what you can. Tsunade moves are rather random. Sometimes she just walks in her drunken stupor. There is no pattern to them. Why not just put out a notice to your agents to watch out for a bump in the gambling economy, said Naruto. Oh, so there's some humor behind those eyes. I guess you got that from Tsunade's file. So what does her say? As if you don't already know, said Naruto. Humor me, said Jiraiya. Naruto sighed. If he just complied, Jiraiya would just run with it. Tsunade Senju, Slug Summoner, currently best medic in the world today. Show no known bloodline from Uzumaki or Senju bloodline, but possess unparalleled strength due to refined chakra control. Known weaknesses include temper, hemophobia, alcoholism, and mental stability due to the loss of relatives and acquaintances. Jiraiya's humor fell at that, but Naruto wasn't done. She's also known for her large breast size, as Jiraiya's smile returned, as well as her luck when it comes to gambling, as she's known in some of the parts as a legendary sucker. In Anbu, they think it's euphemism for her ability to... Jiraiya quickly clamped down over Naruto's mouth. Whoa kid, what are you trying to do there? Don't you know that women always find out when you say these things? It's like some kind of universal law. As Jiraiya removed his hand, I thought you were the one in favor of jokes, said Naruto. There are jokes, kid. And then, there are jokes, said Jiraiya. Once again, an uneasy silence set between them, but it could not last. Hey kid, want to see a cool trick? Asked Jiraiya. The next few days wasn't as bad as he expected. They weren't great though, as they went through the villages looking for Tsunade. As he learned Jiraiya's prosperous mind and work, a whole group of people would owe Jiraiya a favor for a different reason. Every exchange would end with Jiraiya convincing the man or woman that it was him who done them a favor. When he wasn't trying to be in a perverted ledge, he actually had a way with words, as it made Naruto curious to see how much good of a writer the man was. Almost. The trick was the technique called the Rasengan. Naruto wasn't interested in, especially when Jiraiya refused to tell him how rotating his chakra inside a balloon will help. Eventually though, Jiraiya showed him the complete technique, and Naruto was impressed. That kind of pure manipulation without active Genkai was rather impressive, but Naruto showed him his chain drill as he cleaved through the tree next to the one Jiraiya had demolished. As Jiraiya tried to argue that the Rasengan was not completed yet, and the capacity would be stronger if it got, well, completed, but he didn't do it, so he couldn't argue with Naruto. Still, Naruto just went along with it as he tried the first stage of the empty balloon, and he also shut Jiraiya up, but he always sent happy glances Naruto way. The Rasengan wasn't learned overnight, so they were still wondering about. As Jiraiya went off to get some information, as Naruto decided to scout for himself, by the time Jiraiya returned, his face all red, not because of the hot spring he went to, but because of the ladies there. Naruto had found the best trail for Tsunade to go. This pattern repeated itself in every village that they went to. Jiraiya didn't seem too happy about the new arrangement, as he was now following Naruto. Every village that they went to, with a gambling hall or some bar, knew who he was referring to. Her description wasn't, well, too hard to find. Even sometimes she changed between 30s to the 20s to a young girl and a teenager. But that was the point, she passed through every single town at some point, pissing the people them off. There were a number of people that wanted to see her brought in, given the gambling debts that she raked up. All that meant though was the woman had gotten very responsible at escaping her responsibilities. As Naruto made his way to another smaller village, as there was a small gambling den there as well. As him and Jiraiya had split up, Jiraiya was still back in the larger village, still searching, as he said. As Naruto walked through the single street of the village main road, as he approached the gambling hall. There was no need though, as he saw the woman stumbling out of the bar. It was a bar mixed with a gambling hall as she had a safe box in her hand, cursing at someone inside. A moment later, a younger woman, she was probably Shizune Kato, as she came out as she was bowing rapidly, apologizing to the person inside. Even better, Naruto didn't have to say anything. Tsunade saw his jacket and his headband and walked straight up to him. "Who did I piss off enough to hire one of you?" she asked, as she swayed a moment and the bottle in her hand would look like she was drunk. But Naruto knew better than to trust appearances. Her file said that she loved to play out her own weakness, to make enemies take her easy. He knew that she was likely to burn off the alcohol in her system as she spoke as well. "Actually, scratch that. I'm curious who was stupid enough to accept it. Who the hell are you?" she asked. "Unimportant. I'm here to take you back to Konoha. Your services are needed." A grin came over her face. "Oh, are they now?" she said. "Well, why don't you go back to the old geezer and tell him to shove his needs up his wrinkly old ass," she said. If she was expecting her to get angry by the insult to the Hokage, she was disappointed. That would be difficult. The third Hokage is currently in a coma. That brought her up a bit short, because of a recent clash with her teammate. As a matter of fact, yeah, I heard about the invasion. I always say that the village shouldn't trust the stand that much. As Naruto did not argue with her, didn't realize the old man got hurt so bad. Though I suppose that is the kind of thing that should not get out. But that's life, huh? It sucks. Then it's over. Sorry about Sarutobi Sensei, but he knew the rest, as she turned on a heel. As Shizune was rather nervous behind her. "This was not a social call, Senju-san," said Naruto. "I am here to take you back to the village. If you feel, Jiraiya could try his way." Tsunade glanced over her shoulder. "Seriously? And what's a shrimp like you gonna do if I say no?" As her eyes glanced towards his joining jacket, but she dismissed it a moment later. "Where's Jiraiya? I'm pretty sure that bastard is involved in this somehow. Who knows? Probably still whoring himself out in next town over. So he roped you into this, and you decided to come alone," said Tsunade. Naruto did not rise for the taunt though. "Well, you seem like a stubborn type, and I don't mind knocking you through a few walls. Still, I'm trying to enjoy a pretty good buzz here. So how about a wager instead?" "Well, I'm not much of a gambling type. I prefer to be more direct." "Fine, you asked for it. Don't say I didn't try to be friendly about all of this." Naruto shrugged off his flap jacket. "Oh, don't worry, I won't," he said. Time skip. What Jiraiya walked into was a battlefield, as he had went to track Naruto down when Naruto didn't return, as Naruto wasn't discreet about where he went after all, as this most likely meant that he ran to Tsunade. Knowing their personalities, he foresee blood, as the village was not really damaged badly, but the roads were filled with large gaps taken out of them, and bloods spread out everywhere, probably Naruto's, and also some shallow craters. These weren't Tsunade's handiworks, as he wondered who or what made them. He wasn't thinking about it for too long though, as he came across them. "Kid, I will never say anything bad about you ever again." Tsunade was glaring at Jiraiya and Naruto, but that was all she could do. She was bound in chains and lifted off the ground, as it looked rather sexual, but Naruto didn't seem to notice the way she was bound, as he had a smirk on his face, blood leaking from his lips, and his face was bruised as well. Tsunade tried to speak, but her mouth was gagged by the chain that was pulled back tightly. She couldn't even bite down, as Naruto didn't even left her a single point of leverage that she could use, as she was flexing her muscles trying to snap the chains, but without any leverage she couldn't bring that strength down to bear. "Okay kid, I think you should untie her now." He had to be the voice of reason, as Tsunade was getting rather red in the face. He didn't want to be here when she exploded. "Nah, I think I'll keep her like this for the next few minutes," said Naruto, as he pushed the chain, as she was sent swaying front and back. "She got pretty lippy during the fight," said Naruto. The vein on Tsunade's forehead started to throb violently. Somehow, Jiraiya knew that he would be blamed for all of this. He wasn't even sure how Naruto managed to do this. "Seriously kid, we didn't come here to track her back to the village as a criminal. We're here to negotiate." But Naruto simply grinned at him. For all the time for the kid to develop a sense of humor, why now? "I am negotiating, and right now I have all the leverage in these talks." "Okay, the jokes have gone dry kid." As he looked towards Shizune, she had grown up into a looker as well, as she was at the bone Tsunade's side. He didn't blame her. If Naruto could strap up her mentor like this, what chance did she have? "Drop her, and that's the order," said Jiraiya. Naruto folded his arms, "And if I don't?" "The way I see it, this is the best option. Besides, she annoys me. It's a fear, or commence. And are you planning to keep her chained up like this when she operates on the third?" As Naruto wasn't given a chance to release her though, as Tsunade's skin started to steam, as her body reverted into a young girl, as it removed a great deal of her mass, much to their disappointment about her chest. As she was able to slip out of her binds, her feet didn't even touch the ground as she leaped towards Naruto, her arm reared back. Bastard! Her age must have caught up to her, or she wasn't used to her smaller stature. because Jiraiya saw that she didn't move as fast as she should be. As Naruto turned in time to avoid his head being reduced into a bloody pulp, chains sneak up his arms and his legs as well. As Naruto spin and caught her fist this time, Jiraiya was surprised that Naruto did not lose that arm, as the chains then twisted and a crater appeared near Naruto's feet. As Jiraiya understand what Naruto did, the flexible nature allowed him to distort the power into the ground, other than through his body. But she followed up that quick roundhouse kick that caught him right in the ribs, as his body made a trench down the road. Thankfully, Tsunade didn't aim for any buildings they him in. Jiraiya could fix that with her jutsu, property damage though, they would have to pay for. Arrogant little brat, she said, she patted herself down. Jiraiya looked towards Tsunade's smaller chest, as he grunted to himself. Tsunade, fancy seeing you here. Care for a drink, he asked. He took an expensive bottle of alcohol to calm Tsunade down, as he explained by details to what the medic's name told him about the third's health. She took a few moments to mull it over. It would be just like snake face to meet poison, a biological reaction. If it wasn't for that coma, he would probably be in agony. Normally, given the entry point of the wound, I would give it a 60-40 chance that the patient would live. But Sensei is old, she said. And you can treat it, he asked. She drank the sauce in one gulp as she slammed it on the table. Of course I could. Retrieving the fragment of the Kusanagi that is leaking the poison would be delicate but doable. But Jiraiya, you know why I can't go back there. His features darkened slightly, surprising her a bit. No, Tsunade, I really don't. How can you say that? After Jiji, my parents, Dan and Noaki, after. Jiraiya placed a hand on her shoulder though, as you could see the worry in Jiraiya's eyes, and the stress that the man was undertaking at the moment. People you care about. People we all care about, Tsunade. And now you're saying that you want someone else to go the same way, when you have the power to prevent it, he said. He knew that she was remembering that terrible moment as she flinched when Dan died, her hands covered in his blood. So what's the kid's story, she said, as she changed the topic, not making him see the look on her face. Jiraiya could see her swaying to his side, so he had to just nudge her a bit more, and not to push her too hard. Well, you remember that young Uzumaki girl that Mito took under her wing after the sacking of Uzu? Meanwhile, as Naruto woke up, as he grunted in pain as he tried to move, please don't move. You will upset the bones while I'm trying to put them back in place. As he looked at the woman that was healing him, he was afraid by speaking that blood would leak from his mouth. He wasn't sure why she was helping him, but cracked ribs hurt a lot. I'm so sorry about Lady Tsunade. She has much better control than this, but it's just with the taunting and the position. As she nearly jumped when she saw one of her ribs snap back in place. Wow, that's an impressive ability. Tsunade-sama has told me stories about her grandfather, and the first Hokage was said to, "Why are you helping me?" said Naruto. I am not sure what you... I'm a medic nin. I took an oath and I attacked you, said Naruto. Well, technically you... nerve Tsunade to attack you. I love her, but she have a tendency to overreact. I understand that you must be under a great deal of stress with the Hokage condition, and I'm sure it was difficult to find us to get such a negative response. I don't care about any of that. I want you to fight her, said Naruto. And how did that go, she said. As Naruto grunted. Brilliantly, he said, until I let my guard down. He had been cocky after tying her up. I didn't realize her transformation was a physical one. Shizune returned to healing him as it was much faster now, with the Kyuubi doing most of the work. Oh, I almost forgot. I'm Shizune Kato. I know, said Naruto. Oh, she said. He felt something squirm in his stomach as he glanced at her. Naruto Uzumaki, he said to her. Nice to meet you, Naruto, she said. The silence was less awkward after that, until he asked once again, why are you healing me, really? Because it's the right thing to do, she said. As she coughed a moment later, also, the way you tied the blade, Tsunade, it was kinda funny. Don't get me wrong, I love being so close to her for all these years, but being her apprentice can be tiring at times. Dealing with her drunkenness, running from debt collectors, the intense training, I suppose, finally seeing her dealing with some consequences was the best thing. Her eyes widened. Oh, please don't tell her I said that, okay? Naruto grinned as he let his head fall back again. I think I like you. But guys, it'll be instant right here. If you want the next part, if you don't to do, like, subscribe, comment down below, and turn on that bell notification stay posted. Remember to share to all of your friends in social media platform. And also remember guys, the link for Anime King 3 will be in description, so go ahead and click that and subscribe to Anime King 3. And check out my first video over there, What If Naruto Was Betrayed by Hagoromo, and enjoy that guys. And also, I post a new video on this channel of what if Naruto was trained by all the greats at a young age. So go ahead and enjoy it as well. And remember, if you're new, to go ahead and click that red subscribe button and become part of the End Making family. And thank you for all of your helping and support. Remember to comment down below and tell me if you're new. I'll be replying talking back to all of you. So yeah, without further ado, I'm out for now. See you guys tomorrow. Peace.